There is no mass deportation campaign. Deportation is a process that is not being followed right now. What's going on is people are being snatched up in the middle of the streets, trafficked, kidnapped in the middle of the streets, trafficked to other countries without due process. Trump is taking blatantly illegal and inhumane actions to stoke protests and then escalating things from there. Over the weekend, he sent the U.S. troops to California. This is dangerous. First, the California National Guard without the governor's support, and now the Marines. The Marines are trained to fight and win wars, not to de-escalate a protest in the heart of an American city.
After a long day of being humiliated, mocked, and likely shunned by world leaders at the G7, I am sure Donald Trump, as he was fleeing the event, wanted to get on Air Force One turn on some Fox and hear propagandists praise him. But clearly that is not what happened, because Donald Trump likely heard a lot from Rachel Maddow, who described not only the humiliation of Donald Trump's failed parade this weekend, but the success of the No Kings protest in opposition to him and his illegal attack on Los Angeles, and bleated out an insane post that we're going to get into. But before we do, of course, I want to start with Rachel Maddow, who broke down the success of the historic protest this weekend. Let's take a look right here.
So, telling people not to go didn't work. Warning people not to go didn't work. Trying to intimidate people not to go, that definitely didn't work. Even a good faith, earnest, here's a really good reason not to go, kind of cajoling, that did not work either. Turns out we learned definitively in these past few days that people want to protest against this president a lot. And no matter what you tell them, they are going to do it. And a lot of people have been wrong about that, including me. I sat here last week, all earnest and serious, telling you, as if it was true, that there definitely was going to be no protest in Washington, D.C. this weekend, that protesters would be everywhere else in the country, but they definitely wouldn't be in Washington, D.C. Boy, I was wrong. The No Kings protest organizers had in fact said no, they were not going to protest in Washington. They were going to protest everywhere else but there. But plenty of people protested there in very large numbers. And it wasn't just the No Kings organizers who were saying, oh, we're not going to D.C., don't go to D.C. You might remember last week, Trump tried to threaten people against protesting in Washington this weekend. He said last week that if anybody sort of, dared show up to protest against his big birthday military parade, they'd be met with big and very heavy force, trying to intimidate people into not protesting. Turns out that didn't work. Regular Americans said, you know what? We're not listening to any of you. We're Americans and we have the right to protest, and that comes from our Constitution and not from any of you. And so get out of the way. We don't care. We're protesting. Lots of people protested in Washington this weekend, and there were no problems associated with it. Protesters mostly did bug out of D.C. before the actual military parade started. The military parade itself turned out to have really thin crowds. In some places along the parade route, there was almost nobody in the stands. Everybody and the president seemed kind of, I don't know, a little bored, maybe a little disappointed. I don't know. Ta-da! It just wasn't a big thing that President Trump put on for $45 million. But they got plenty of protesters when people, including me, said they wouldn't be there. You might have seen headlines last week about the Brevard County, Florida sheriff last week, who called a press conference to threaten that he would sick dogs on people, and his officers would not just put people in jail, they would put people in the hospital. He literally got up at a press conference and said, "We will kill you," talking about violence he expected at any anti-Trump protests in Brevard County, Florida. After that bizarre show of intimidation from that sheriff in Brevard County, Florida, turns out people in Brevard County, Florida were not at all intimidated by what he said, as you can see from local headlines like this one. Quote, "No Kings anti-Trump protests draw thousands in Brevard County in Cocoa and Palm Bay." I mean, the sheriff gets out there and says, "We will kill you." And Brevard County, Florida is like, you know what? We got a right to protest. We have a right to make protest signs of any kind, including ones that show Donald Trump in a big wig made up like Marie Antoinette saying, "Let them eat cake." And you are not going to stop us from doing it. We are Americans. We have the right to do this. We will protest.
I've been hearing a lot about the 3.5% rule recently, which, if you're not familiar with, is an idea that has been detailed in research that if 3 and 12% of a nation's population shows up to peacefully protest, they can successfully achieve a movement that can fight democratic backsliding, prevent authoritarianism, achieve civil rights. And that is what we saw with the No Kings protests, the largest recorded single-day peaceful demonstration in American history, not only showing our strength and agency, not only opposing Donald Trump on his birthday, but especially opposing Donald Trump's attack on L.A., one of the biggest sites of protest on No King's Day, which is why Donald Trump last night, at midnight, decided he was going to fire off again at the governor of California and the entire state. Just take a look at midnight last night. Trump wrote, "If I didn't put the National Guard into Los Angeles, the place would be burned to the ground right now. I did incompetent Governor Gavin Newsom, who doesn't have a clue the favor of a lifetime, one of the worst governors in history." What is he even talking about? Donald Trump tried and failed to distract us with his attack on LA. He wanted to distract us from his failed budget, his breakup with Elon, his tanking approval, his humiliating failure of a birthday, and it just didn't work. All Donald Trump's attack on LA did was make his illegal immigration plan all the more unpopular and unite that city into having an even more successful turnout on No King's Day, in opposition to Donald Trump humiliating him on his birthday, as Rachel Maddow so perfectly detailed. So what are you talking about? It is very clear, as we saw reported and demonstrated again and again, that the only crisis coming, the only tensions inflamed, were because of Donald Trump. But that's what he wants. He wants to create a stir. He wants to distract. He does not want to fix this issue, which was made very clear by my congressman speaking to Democratic governors in a clip right here.
There is no mass deportation campaign. Deportation is a process that is not being followed right now. What's going on is people are being snatched up in the middle of the streets, trafficked, kidnapped in the middle of the streets, trafficked to other countries without due process. Trump is taking blatantly illegal and inhumane actions to stoke protests and then escalating things from there. Over the weekend, he sent the U.S. troops to California. This is dangerous. First, the California National Guard without the governor's support, and now the Marines. The Marines are trained to fight and win wars, not to de-escalate a protest in the heart of an American city. Members of our armed services have sworn an oath to the Constitution. They didn't swear an oath to Donald Trump, and they're not his personal army. And so in the face of a wannabe dictator, we have to have strong opposition. First, the Trump administration says they're going to arrest judges. Then they arrested a judge. Then they talk about arresting elected officials. Then a mayor gets arrested. Then they said they'd arrest a member of Congress, and one has been indicted. Democratic member of Congress has been indicted. And now we have Trump's border czar, Tom Homan, who's threatened to arrest the California governor. And I don't think we should take this as an empty threat. Why is Trump now saying he wants to arrest governors? It's because he knows that some of the people who are going to be the greatest opposition to his lawlessness are Democratic governors standing up for their people. And so I'm just curious to hear from our three governors here today, because these things can be put forth as hypotheticals, but they're not hypotheticals. Elected officials are being arrested. This is happening. The DOJ is being weaponized against us. So if federal agents were to come to your door, to the governor's mansion, approach your security staff to arrest you, you have Tom Homan on the news saying, I want to arrest Governor Hochul, Governor Pritzker, Governor Walz. What do you do? What do you say? I'm just curious. Governor Hochul, if you can start.
If Tom Homan comes to Albany to arrest me, I'll say, go for it. You can't intimidate a governor. What is this country coming to? When people can threaten us on social media and on cable news and try to stop us from doing our jobs, we're here on the front lines every day, fighting to defend our rights, our values, and the public safety of our residents. And so anything threatening our responsibility is an assault on our democracy, nothing short of that.
Thank you, Congressman. Let me begin by saying I have the highest duty to protect the people of my state. And indeed, if Tom Homan were to come to try to arrest us, I can say, first of all, that he can try. I can also tell you that I will stand in the way of Tom Homan going after people who don't deserve to be frightened in their communities, who don't deserve to be threatened, terrorized. I would rather that he came and arrested me than do that to the people of my state.
Well, thank you, Congressman. And I was just sitting here listening today again. There's many of you in here, friends on both sides of the aisle that I served here. The job of governor is very different than the job you're doing, but we need you. We need to work together. No one here wants to hear these horrific stories, but we have a job to do on limited resources. And equating that not doing ICE's job means we're not cooperating. We're patrolling our highways. I'm proud that Minnesota's a state third lowest in traffic deaths. If we start doing all the things at ICE, and nothing we do precludes them from doing their job. And so threatening and political, and I did not realize, I guess, I watch it, I didn't realize how much animosity there's here. We have a responsibility to the American public to work together, and I think threatening arrest on elected officials, Congressman, it doesn't help any of us. And Governor Pritzker's right. Our citizens are scared and angry, and it's not necessary. We can fix this with a bipartisan border bill. Help us out.
Thank you, Governor. I want to end by saying former Governor and now Secretary of Homeland Security Kristi Noem just last year said that federalizing the National Guard would be a direct attack on states' rights. And now she's cheering it on. President Trump has consolidated power so much in his own party, there's little to no, pretty much zero, opposition left to his lawlessness. We hear it in this room right now. And the last thing I want to say, too, is what's going on right now is not just a distraction from the fact that they want to pass a massive tax break for the richest Americans and take away services and things from working families, but it's to enable it. These aren't two different stories, because the only way you rip away health care from 15 million Americans in this country and not feel like you have to fear for your job or that you're going to be protested every day is by scaring the people and suppressing their First Amendment right. What's going on in Los Angeles and what this Donald Trump wants to do around the nation is directly connected to the fact that he's going to take away health care from all of these people, 15 million Americans, to benefit people like him and his donors. And it's shameful. These aren't two different things. It's the same thing. I yield back.
Republicans have no interest in fixing these issues. It's the reason why this time last year we were talking about a bipartisan border deal, which Republicans refused to support after initially going along with, but who told them to stop that Donald Trump because he needed an issue then to run on, and he needs an issue now to distract with. But it's not working. It's the reason he had to backtrack and say, well, maybe we don't go after anyone in restaurants, anyone on farms, maybe. Or what was the last one that he said? Oh, hotels. Yeah, the property guy saying no more raiding hotels because it's all about Trump. It's always all about Trump, and we got to call it out. We're going to on this show, and if you want to support that as always, you can hit that subscribe button, leave a like on this video, and if you stuck around to the end, drop a blue heart in the comments. Until next time, I'll see you soon.